I'm Don, and I'm so glad you're here because I have something great to share with you. It's something that happened in my own life, but I know that something just as great can happen in yours as well. So we'll get right to it. In 2011, I had reached the bottom. I was in a real tough spot. First, I was homeless. I was on the street, I was broke, and I was hungry, and I had nowhere to go. I was also a hardcore drug addict, and I would do almost anything to get high. And when I did, there was no telling where I'd wake up in an alleyway, in a mental health crisis unit, and even jail. I had serious mental health issues as well, ones that were so challenging that the local courts had to step in. They declared me to be incompetent and unable to take care of myself. And it gets worse. By that time in my life, I had already served over 20 years in prison, mostly for bank robberies. Looking back on my life, I couldn't figure out what it was that had started me on this path that led to this horrible, horrible bottom, and I had no idea what I needed to do to turn it around either. I only knew that I was stuck, and that from a very young age I was driven to escape and run away from something deep inside, and I didn't even know what it was. When I was 13, my life had become so out of control that my parents had me committed to an inpatient drug program. They thought I'd be home in a few months, but I never went home again. Instead, the rest of my teenage years were spent in youth homes, in mental health and juvenile detention facilities, and I was sentenced to adult prison for the first time at age 16. My adult years were more of the same, but worse. The drugs got harder, the prison sentences got longer, and it began to take its toll on me. So, back to 2011. I was in a real bad place. I didn't know how to live a normal life, and I had no idea what happiness or success looked or felt like. I had been a complete failure at everything that I did. I wanted to change, but I kept running into dead ends. I tried treatment. I tried therapy. I tried counseling. I tried rehab. I tried prayer. I tried meditation. But nothing seemed to work for me, and I was exhausted. I was tired of even trying anymore. I became convinced that I was a horrible person and that my life only proved it. I began to hurt and suffer like never before, and I came to believe that the only way out was to take myself out. But one day I had an awakening. I had a deep realization that I was not a horrible person. I saw that I was just as good as anyone else and that I had a right to have a good life. I saw that I was worth fighting for, and so I did. I reached out for help and I began following a path. I embraced a way of looking at life that not only saved my life, but gave me one beyond my wildest dreams. To start with, for the first time in my life, I was finally able to get clean and stop using drugs. I went from being isolated and alone to having true friends, and I also learned how to be a friend. I went from not knowing how to love or be loved to meeting the love of my life, getting married, and having two wonderful boys who are the light of my life. I went from being homeless to being a homeowner in a beautiful area of Tampa Bay, Florida. I went back to school for software development and landed an entry-level programming job. I worked hard, and I wound up leading teams and becoming the director of software development for an international financial services company. The founder of my company even said, "Don's transformation is simply amazing. To have overcome so much and then lead teams and create solutions that helped our company become the international success it is today is a testimony to the greatness within all of us that Don speaks of." And so there I was. My life was looking great on so many levels, and it really was. But inside, I wanted more. I wanted to help others see what I saw that day, because I knew that if someone like me could experience such a profound personal transformation, then absolutely anyone could. And when you get right down to it, I'm no different from you. My own experiences were extreme, but the feelings and the issues I face deep inside are universal, and so is the solution. In other words, the path that I followed isn't just for bank robbers or addicts or outcasts. No, This path is for everyone, for those who clearly have lost their way, as well as those who are doing great on many levels but still know there's that piece of the puzzle that's missing. Well, I had found that piece of the puzzle, and I knew that I had to help others find it as well. So I began speaking wherever I could, at high schools, at business organizations, at spiritual gatherings, spreading a message of hope. I began working with others one-on-one and in groups as well, helping others have their own breakthroughs and transformed lives. I also wrote and released The Prison Within, a memoir of breaking free. It's the story of my own journey of personal transformation. And then I wrote Change Your Identity, Change Your Life, The Path to True Happiness, Success, and Abundance. Since then, my life has been even more amazing. I've traveled back and forth across the country several times. I've been on a lot of podcasts and featured in the media, and I've been able to help others and work with some really great people. And along the way, my family and I wound up trading the beaches and suburbs of Tampa Bay for the mountains of Southwest Colorado. And today, as I'm recording this, we live on our homestead in Durango, raising goats and chickens and growing organic produce and having a blast. And who knows what's next? Sometimes I think it can't get any better, and then it does. And I know that it can for you as well. The cool thing I keep learning about this as I work with others into my own life is that there are simple principles you can follow to have your own breakthrough, learn a new way to view yourself and the world, and experience the success and happiness that you truly want, whatever that means for you. You might have personal struggles that are standing in your way. Maybe you have bad habits that are hard to shake, and they are truly bringing the pain. Or maybe your relationships or life choices have not served you well. Or maybe you feel like you're disconnected to your purpose and meaning, and inside you know that you need help navigating through it all. Whatever it is, there's a life that awaits you. It calls to you, and regardless of how difficult the challenges may seem, you can overcome it. There is nothing that can hold you back except for your own mindset. One of the hardest lessons that I and so many others have learned is that you can't do it alone. You need to take the opportunity to reach out and connect with real people who have real experience on this life-changing journey. And when you do, you can save years or possibly decades of going around in circles trying to figure it out for yourself. This applies to all of us. We all need help connecting the dots and staying accountable to get where we truly want to be. And when you do, before you know it, you'll come to see that there are no limits to the life that you can put together for yourself. This process simply puts the tools in your hands, enabling you to create your own before and after story. Around this video, there's a button or a link, and I encourage you to use it. Find out today about the opportunities available for you or your loved one. And I look forward to being part of your journey.